and welcome to Legislative Report. I'm State Representative Kate Harper of the 61st District in Montgomery County. In our area, we've seen a lot of major highway projects in recent years, and one of the most significant by far is the total reconstruction and widening of an 11-mile section of the Turnpike's northeast extension. While the southern section of that project between Mid-County and Berks Road is on track for completion by this fall, work's just ramping up on the northern section from Berks Road to the Lansdale interchange. So what's that going to mean for drivers in our area and for neighboring property owners? Joining me today to discuss this project is Gerald Rollman, Project Manager for the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission. Mr. Rollman, thanks for being here today. I hope you don't mind if I call you Jerry.
Nope, that's fine. Thanks for having me.
Good. You know, before we start, I always let the guests say a little bit about their background and how they got to be where they are today with the Turnpike. So you're an engineer, aren't you?
Yes, I'm an engineer with the Turnpike for over 25 years, working on highway design and bridge design.
And where'd you grow up and where'd you go to school?
I'm from Northeast PA. I'm a graduate of Penn State University with a civil engineering degree.
Great. We have lots of civil engineers and Penn State alums in my district.
Yes.
So let's talk about the Turnpike. Now, first of all, you know, from the perspective of the driver, I use that road all the time. It's a challenge sometimes. So why is the Turnpike doing this project?
Well, the Turnpike has a reconstruction initiative to rebuild the entire Turnpike system. This northeast extension from Mid-County to Lansdale is one of the sections of roadway of the northeast extension that was built almost 50 years ago, if not more, depending on which section you're on.
50 years a long time in road building?
Yes, it's beyond its life expectancy.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
At this point, bridges are being rebuilt. The roadway needs rebuilt, not just patched and paved. So as a part of this initiative, we also look at capacities, and with this section of the Turnpike being the highest traveled 4-lane section of the Turnpike, we are looking at expanding from 4 lanes to 6 lanes to help alleviate traffic congestion.
Wow, 4 lanes to 6 lanes, and I understand you're also going to have a median.
Right. The existing Turnpike on the northeast extension has a 4-foot median, which is the area between the northbound and southbound traffic.
That's just a big concrete thing.
Right now, it's just a barrier with about 1 foot next to it. When the projects are done up here with the reconstruction, they will have a full shoulder next to that barrier, which is 12 foot next to that barrier.
Okay.
So we'll have a 12-foot shoulder on the inside. You'll have 3 12-foot lanes and a 12-foot right-hand shoulder.
So it'll be 3 lanes in each direction.
Correct.
And shoulders and a median.
Yes.
Okay, now I drive on that road, as I said, because it's a good way for me to get from one part of my district to another. And I understand that 60,000 other people drive on that road every day. Is that about right?
That's approximately right there. In 2007, we had approximately 67,000 vehicles.
Wow.
We're projected to have approximately 82,000 in 2016.
Every day?
Every day,
okay.
Which is when the construction is tentatively scheduled to be complete in this section.
Now, I've read that the reason that there's so much traffic on that, in addition to the fact, of course, that Montgomery County has grown quite a bit. We have a lot of population out near the Lansdale interchange, and to be honest, the Bucks County section in Quakertown too, than we had before, but also because this road connects to the main stem of the Turnpike and to the Blue Route, and both of those are pretty heavily traveled roads too.
Very heavily traveled as well, and the main stem, the east-west Turnpike, is 6 lanes. Where the northeast extension ties in, so you have that traffic plus what comes from the Blue Route up through our Mid-County interchange up to the northeast as well.
Right. Now, would you agree with me that it's basically a commuter road? I mean, people use it in the morning and in the evening?
Yes, our heaviest volumes are morning rush and evening rush.
And that's because I believe that you can go to Great Valley, or the 202 section of King of Prussia, and get work there, or you can go towards Horsham or the Fort Washington Business Center and get to work at all those places. So people seem to be living further out and then needing to get to work.
Yes, the commuter certainly drives where we go with our reconstructions, with all the raising our volumes up.
Right, because they're paying the tolls too.
Yep, they pay the tolls. In addition, there are some businesses in the area that
use the Turnpike.
The Turnpike.
Sure, yeah, we have big trucks at Lansdale getting on and off.
Yes, yes, create some additional volumes for business.
Okay, And Towmenson Township's been working very hard on a town center area that's going to include hotels and restaurants and amenities like that, and also apartments so that people can live right near the Turnpike, hop on and go to work.
Yes, we've been working closely with Towmenson Township for that development right adjacent to the Turnpike. And with that, we're putting a ramp in that can allow traffic to come from that right developed area, which adjacent to the Turnpike, into our Turnpike system without going out onto the Sumneytown Pike, which is already heavily traveled and congested.
Right, so that should actually help Sumneytown Pike as well.
Yes, yes.
And in fact, one of the big problems with the Northeast Extension these days are whenever the Northeast Extension has an accident, all the parallel routes are backed up, and that would include Sumneytown Pike, Skipback Pike, Route 63, and everything else that runs the same way. Have you noticed that as well?
Yes, that's, and of course during our design and coordination with the townships, that was a big part of their concerns, was that every time something happens, they do have issues throughout their townships, municipalities. Now we're anticipating, and we'll see as we go here, the existing Turnpike being as narrow as it is, it's very difficult to get around an accident if something happens. Even a minor fender bender, where we do try to get them off the road, but it creates that. Now with the wider reconstruction, the 3 lanes and 2 full shoulders on either side, it is anticipated that other than major accidents, we will be able to get traffic past the accident sites, hopefully, and keep traffic moving on the Turnpike instead of inundating the local municipality roadways.
Well, if you have a fender bender or you have a tire blowout, there's really no place to go.
Right.
I mean, you can't even get off of the road to fix it or
Currently,
get out of the way. There's just no room.
Right. Currently, nothing to the inside. That's the
Right.
barrier. And to the outside, that current shoulder is variable between 10 to 12 feet. But 10 feet on a shoulder trying to fix a flat or something, as you say, it makes it pretty hairy there with traffic zipping by
I think
you.
you're going to get killed. I wouldn't advise it.
Yeah, at high miles per hour, correct.
Right, because people are moving 65 and above,
Yeah,
and they're
65, yep.
Yeah, they're moving
That's
pretty
the speed
well.
limit.
That's the speed limit. That's what they're supposed to be doing. So they are moving pretty quickly. So how about tolls? Are you doing anything with the tolls? I know the Turnpike has an initiative to try to go to all Easy Pass.
Right, that's our all electronic tolling.
Right.
It's in the process in the state, working phases. We're looking at the design. I'm not part of that overall work, but I am aware of what's going on and looking at where we can place toll collection facilities for Easy Pass without having to have toll booths and all.
Right. Well, I have to say that on the Plymouth meeting, right at Plymouth meeting, when you are going from the Blue Route onto the Turnpike, you don't even have to stop. You just go under this.
Right. That's our high-speed Easy Pass we have in there. We don't have to slow down to 5 miles an hour.
Right.
And that's what's intended for this all-electronic tolling as well.
Well, I love that.
system.
Although people do sort of stop and look around. Should I stop my car? What should I do?
Well, it's education of the public to know that they just keep moving.
Keep on moving. There's a sign there now that says, "Do not stop. Stay in your lane and keep on moving."
Correct. Yep.
So I think those are great. Now, along with the Turnpike traffic and the Turnpike construction, and we can talk about what's going to be necessary, but if you're a neighbor of the Turnpike and there's now 60,000 cars a day, vehicles a day,
Yes.
that includes the trucks, and there's going to be 80,000 vehicles a day.
80,000 when we're done, and if traffic continues to increase, it could grow over 100,000. It'll grow over 100,000 before the life cycle would be done on this roadway, yes.
All right. Well, there are some places along the Turnpike where you can hardly hear yourself think, let alone talk, if you're standing close to the Turnpike right of way. Yes. So that brings up the discussion of sound barriers. And I've worked with the Turnpike and the neighbors, and can you explain how it's decided who gets a sound barrier and who doesn't?
Well, yeah, the noise the analysis follows the state guidelines, which are modeled off the federal guidelines.
Federal guidelines, right.
For noise analysis and abatement of noise along a highway. Generally, what happens is there's tests out in the field where we set up noise monitors, and they monitor the noise. This work is done by certified, qualified technicians that that's what they do, noise analysis.
And they know what they're looking for.
They know what they're looking for. We set the monitors up. We monitor all the noise. They then take it back to their shops and they input it into a computer, which not just takes the noise that they have, but it also projects the noise for the new roadway that we're building.
The more vehicles.
Wider roadway
Okay.
with more vehicles, with varying roadside topography, okay, and correlates that to what they read, so they know how many vehicles came through the roadway when they took the reading.
Right.
And then we correlate it to how many vehicles would be there during a higher time.
All right. So after you know who you have now, and you have a little device that listens.
Right.
Okay. And what you do is you project how much noise will be made by the number of vehicles you expect on 3 lanes when those are built.
Yes, that
Okay.
is correct.
So you take that number, which is a big number, and what do you do with it?
All right, we take it, and then that's where the criteria that come about that are set by the federal guidelines and the PennDOT state standards. We determine if it's warranted. And warranted means, does it meet or exceed the criteria for noise? And that's a
Right.
decibel number.
Is it fair to say that these sound barriers are so expensive that your criterion are, will it do enough good to justify the huge expense of putting it in? Is
Yes,
that about right?
That is right, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's actually one of the criteria where it's warranted. It means it's loud enough. Feasible means you can get something built in the location
possible to build something
and
there.
reduce noise.
Right.
And then reasonable, and which is the dollars, and it's a correlation between dollars and benefit. Of course, benefits, and we don't want to spend a bunch of money when you can't really reduce it. In certain topography, doesn't lend you to reducing that.
Right. I mean, for example, in some places, the Turnpike is substantially below grade level where the houses are.
Correct.
I'm thinking of Morris Road,
Yep,
actually.
there's times where it's above, yes.
Right. So if it's substantially below, the sound is basically in that channel anyway, right?
It still moves out. The sound waves, depending on how the sound waves go, and then so there are locations where you could have the homes above the road, and the noise wall does meet the criteria and
They
is
would
installed.
still hear it. And,
yes.
and the other thing would be the more dense the development is.
Yes.
In other words, the more houses per half mile or square mile in an area
Right.
that can benefit, that's going to make the analysis easier, because if you have 50, let's say, townhouses,
Right.
and there is a benefit, it's going to be the cost of the wall's really warranted, because 50 households get benefited.
Correct.
Whereas if you just have one, it's harder to justify
It's harder
the
to
expense.
justify. Yes, it is, because the walls are very expensive. I mean, we're spending millions of dollars on noise walls, sound barriers,
Right.
throughout the Northeast Extension project here. So it's very expensive. We do follow the criteria, and when we meet criteria, we don't have any qualms of doing noise abatement. And that's not just walls, though. I mean, there's other methods of noise abatement.
Well, what else would you consider other than a wall?
Well, mounding is one of the
Mounting, that meaning a
mounding
big
of-
berm of dirt.
A big berm of dirt. In other words, an artificial hill between the road and the property owners. That's actually a very good way of doing it.
Yeah,
because
that deadens the sound.
it deadens the sound. It's a wall that a wall eventually is going to need replaced or maintenance. A mound of that's landscaped. It requires some mowing or whatever, but generally that's it, and it will be there for, hopefully forever.
And I had sent you that study
Yes.
that showed that if people didn't see the source of the noise, they're less bothered by it. So
Correct.
actually,
Yeah.
trees, which are not as good as sound barriers at actually blocking the sound, they're still useful every now and then, because they do have some effect on
Yes,
the
they
noise.
are. Yes, and the noise walls, have that ability to block the noise, but they don't block everything, and a mound won't block everything either. Again, it's to reduce the noise level, not to eliminate the noise.
Well, we do have sound barriers going in along a lot of this project, and we're going to take a quick break, and Legislative Report will return in just a moment. We'll talk a little bit more about the Northeast Extension with my guest, Jerry Rollman from the Turnpike.
Did you know that Act 16 of 1999 honors one of the greatest leaders in the Pennsylvania House of Representatives? The Matthew J. Ryan Legislative Office Building, once known as the Capitol Annex, is located next to the main Capitol building and honors the late Speaker of the House, Matthew J. Ryan. Those who visit this building will observe the magnificent architectural designs providing eloquence and grandeur to the building. Known as one of the greatest members in the history of the Pennsylvania State House, Matthew Ryan started his career in the legislature in 1963 and was elected Speaker in 1981. His charisma and knowledge will forever be reflected in the building now named after this great legislative leader. Now you know.
Did you know that the state capitol is not only the epicenter of the Commonwealth's governing bodies, but was once home to 390 preserved Civil War flags? During the war, it was customary for each state to furnish their regiments in battle with flags representing their contribution to the Union Army. After the war, Pennsylvania's military department was responsible for collecting the flags, and in 1872 they were reverently housed in the Capitol. Following the completion of construction on the new Capitol building in 1914, the Civil War flags were removed to the Capitol Rotunda. They were kept untouched in custom-made flag cases until 1982, when the Capitol Preservation Committee initiated its Save the Flags project. Throughout the years, dust and long-term vertical display of the flags had begun to devastate the brittle silk fabric and painted designs. The flags were removed by local textile conservators and were repaired and preserved in storage units that protect the relics from light, dust, and excessive handling. Now you know.
Welcome back to Legislative Report. I'm State Representative Kate Harper, and today we're discussing a project that's vital to our area, the expansion of the northeast extension of the Turnpike. My guest is Jerry Roman from the Turnpike, and he's an engineer. And we've been discussing sound barriers and how big the road's going to be, but now I want to focus a little bit more on the details of this particular project. And one thing that has people who are knowledgeable about it a little worried is about what kind of traffic detours are we going to see. Now, if you don't take the Turnpike at all, you may not even be aware that several bridges in the area cross it.
Well, yeah.
So talk to me about traffic delays and detours and things that we'll have to get used to.
There's multiple roadways that the Turnpike goes over through this section. Starting with Burks Road at the southern end, we cross over Schultz Road, Valley Forge Road, Green Lane, and then Wombold Road. Those bridges will be replaced in stages, our roadway above. There'll be short-term intermittent stoppages during non-peak hours when we're working above the roadway. We can't work above traffic below us.
Okay, so you generally work at night?
No, generally most of the work can occur during the day. There are some operations that need to happen at night, usually the operations that are traffic dependent.
Okay.
Where we got to slow traffic or shift traffic or move traffic, and we don't want to do those during the daytime when traffic is so heavy and causes backlogs.
Right.
And delays.
Okay.
So those type of operations occur in the evening, nighttime, so we're not backlogging traffic.
Okay. Now in the southern section, I did hear some complaints about jackhammers in the middle of the night. Are we going to have that too?
Hopefully not as much, depending on the contractor for the project and his operations. Stuff is also weather dependent.
Sure.
Construction out here is weather dependent. There's things of that nature can work. Most contractors want to try to accomplish what they can during the day. However, if you get behind is when we typically experience more night work. There will be some night work, but the majority will be during daytime. All
right. Now, you talked about where the Turnpike goes over, but the Turnpike also goes under things.
Yes.
And the one I'm thinking about is Bustard Road right near the firehouse.
Yes, Bustard Road crosses the Turnpike right near the Taliemenson Volunteer Fire Company station, just south of Lansdale Interchange. That will be a detour.
That's a busy area, Jerry.
It's going to be a tough detour, but we have a detour design there that's been worked with the township as well as PennDOT, since that is a state route. That road will be detoured. And what we're going to do is we're going to detour that road just south, on the south side of the Turnpike, along a township roadway, Rittenhouse Road, which connects you over to Old Valley Forge Road.
Okay.
Old 40-foot road, excuse me.
Old 40-foot. So
road.
Buster will be closed for how long? Pretty long, right?
Yeah, it's anticipated that road would be closed beginning to mid-July.
Okay.
We wouldn't close it right at 4th of July, so we'll wait till after that holiday period. And then that will remain closed until most likely May of 2015.
Wow.
Yes, so the detour will be there in place for that amount of time. There will be a temporary signal installed at Old 40-foot road and Rittenhouse Road to help cover traffic.
It's a good idea.
Yes. And there'll be notices. We put out bulletins. We put out notifications to officials and legislators. We put out e-bulletins and emails to property owners, residents, anyone concerned.
So that they'll know.
Keep them updated of the situation. In addition, we'll have signage up out there to let people know when the detour will go into effect.
Well, you know, change is hard.
Yes, it is. It's very difficult. But
Right.
hopefully, in the end, it's all worth it.
Right, that's what we're hoping for. So this is a good time for me to remind our viewers that I actually do a traffic e-blast every Friday. Go to my website and sign up for it. I always cover the Turnpike activities because they cut right through the heart of the district. So,
Yes, they do.
so you'll be closing Bustard Road. Any other roads going to get closed during this?
As designed right now, the roads will not be closed. Again, there'll be some
Stoppages.
Yeah, you'll notice some signage, maybe some temporary concrete barriers adjacent to our bridge while we're working on it. But the roads I mentioned earlier will all remain open, other than some short-term, non-peak hour stoppages. Mostly when we take beams off of the bridge, the old beams, and put new beams back up. You can't do that above traffic, so we have to stop.
That's true.
And it's easier to move to do these short-term stoppages. Contractors sometimes will try to coordinate with the townships in the state, and instead of doing those 15-minute stoppages where they set one beam and then open up the traffic and try to do that at night, they can try to coordinate and try to get some detours approved. If they do that, that's through the individual townships and possibly the state to see what they can get during construction, which is what occurred in the southern end.
Right, and actually that worked out. You know, as long as we had plenty of notice, people were okay and knew what roads to avoid on weekends usually.
Yes.
So now the other thing is I have a lot of residents who live right near the Turnpike and who are scheduled to get sound barriers.
Yes.
But before we go any further, because you and I have been working on this for such a long time, I almost forgot to mention it, all the takings have already been taken.
All properties have been taken.
And there aren't that many of them.
No, there were a total, I believe, of 38 properties that we had to acquire some kind of interest for this project.
A partial interest generally.
Most of them were partial interest. A lot of that is temporary.
Construction easement?
Temporary construction easements means we work in the area, then we restore it back to its original, or
So
as
anybody
close
who's
as possible.
living along the Turnpike and who's worried now, if they haven't had contact with the Turnpike, they're not going to get any taking.
No, there will be no more taking. All the property acquisition has been completed at this time.
All right. Now, if you are a property owner, and I'm thinking of a resident whose backyard you and I stood in, I think, to talk about sound barriers, what's it going to be like for her? You're going to work from the inside out? They're going from the Turnpike property, or how's that?
Yeah. What we'll do is our work will start, and it's going to start here by the end of this month. Alan Myers will start that. Yeah, we keep traffic on its existing lanes.
Okay.
We set a temporary concrete barrier adjacent to the shoulder, which protects our workers from traffic and our traffic from the construction zone. And we build to the outside.
Okay.
First thing you're going to see happening out there will be clearing a lot of the trees. Almost every tree within the Turnpike right-of-way property is going to have to go.
Sure. Well, because you're going from 2 lanes in each direction to 3 lanes in each direction and shoulders.
And we're utilizing just about almost all of that space. So that's going to start very soon, where we go out, start taking trees out, we start removing fence.
Okay.
And we get the outside. Then you start digging the dirt, and we start getting the outside built. We also put in erosion control measures so we don't pollute the environment, those streams.
Sure.
And then they get converted to permanent basins when we're done. But that work occurs on the outside while traffic remains on its lanes. That's anticipated to go into the middle of 15, if not till almost the end of the 2015.
Till next year.
Yes,
Wow.
till
Okay.
next year. And before we switch traffic to the outside, which is the new lanes, some of the new lanes we're building, the noise walls will be in place prior to us pushing the traffic
Okay,
closer to
so
the
before
residences.
before the traffic gets closer to the houses, the sound barriers will be in place.
Yes.
I have to tell you, the people in Bluebell have their sound barriers, love them.
Well, that's good. I'm happy to hear that.
I know they're expensive, Jerry, and I know
expensive.
that it was an issue
A lot of
for
work
you.
and effort goes into them.
Really, but they're very happy. The neighborhoods that got the sound barriers are happy. They're working.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
They like the way it's working out. So that's good to know. Now we just have a few more minutes left. We talked about sound barriers. We talked about detours. What else do you think the people who live around the construction should know during the construction period, which is more than a year?
Well, yeah, the construction will be a couple years. Our contractor is mandated, and we'll be sending out notices to the adjacent property
Now our
owners.
contractor, the bid's been awarded to our local contractor,
Alan Myers.
Alan A. Myers from Worcester, which
Yes.
is great.
Yes. This is a $198 million project,
Wow.
which is quite.
Well, lots of people who work for Alan A. Myers live in the district, so
yeah,
this will put them back
yes.
to work.
Yes.
The road building industry's had a very tough time in this recession.
So with notifications, we also do open houses, so people can come out, and our contractor is at these open houses, as well as our public involvement folks, and kind of give an update of where we are and where we're going to be working. You know, are we going to be in your backyard next week or not, or adjacent to your backyard?
Right.
So you have a good idea of when we're going to be adjacent to your house. It is almost between 5 and 6 mile section of roadway,
Okay.
and we don't work the entire 6 miles the entire time. A contractor doesn't. So as his operations come up and down the road, this open houses kind of give our adjacent property owners.
We're coming to your area.
We're coming to your area.
Because
Yes.
I got to tell you, when you're on the Northeast Extension, 5 or 6 miles goes by in about 5 minutes.
Yes, it's pretty quick.
So you don't notice it as much, but when you live along it, it's a different story, particularly if you're going to be working
Right. Correct.
along there. So people can, go to your open houses. They can contact me. Now,
right.
I'm sure you have a website,
Yes, our website.
which we will put up on the screen for people so they can see
Okay.
it if you want to. But that'll have updates as well.
Yeah, we have a website for all of our construction projects, including this project in the Northeast, that gives you all kinds of information about what's occurring, schedules, various items,
Right.
what's happening on the Turnpike and adjacent.
Now, I mentioned that you'll be taking Bustard Road out for a while, and it's right near the Tom Mountain Volunteer Fire Company station. I know you always work with the local EMTs and emergency people, don't you?
Yes, with this project, we coordinated with the fire company to provide a ramp from the fire hall down onto the Turnpike, so that fire station wouldn't have to go around the detour to respond to anything on the Turnpike, but they'll have a temporary ramp to get down there adjacent to Fireman's Park there.
Right, and then they've also made plans for how they can protect the township. I know they have another substation that's not
Right.
affected by this.
Yes.
But because you're working with them, on road closures, so the police will know how to get someplace quickly, and so will the fire guys and the ambulance,
Yes,
right?
we're doing that as well. Yeah, we're working with them, and we're also working with them as far as some fire connections in these areas where you have all the noise walls and all.
Great, because there might be an accident, and
Yes.
I'm sure they respond all the time.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much, Jerry. That's all the time we have for today's program. I'm State Representative Kate Harper. If you need assistance with any state government matter or with the Turnpike, feel free to contact me at my local office. The address and phone number will be shown in just a moment. Thanks for watching. Join me again for Legislative Report. And thanks, Jerry, from the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission for coming out.
Thanks, Kate.